how the hell do you do this to Chris Paul? Now, this is a future Hall of Famer who's come there for the last year in his career. I don't give a damn what's going on with the team. They're trash right now. We understand that. They have the worst superstar in the sport in Kawhi Leonard, who is a talent when healthy, no doubt, but does nothing to promote his team nor the game of basketball. The absolute worst superstar that you could possibly have. And from what I've been told, the only person that really talks to him is CP3 because nobody else talks to him. Okay? Just leave him alone. That organization right now is a mess. It's a mess, okay? I know, and we know it ain't coaching because Ty Lue the coach. Ty Lue know what the hell he doing. Now, Jeff Van Gundy being there, we know Jeff Van Gundy knows stuff, but he's old school, stuff like that. I get it. I have not spoken to CP3 yet, but you know I will, okay? I haven't spoken to a few of the Clippers. They know they'll be good. They know if I don't get a call from them, they'll be getting a call from me within the next 24 hours.
The Los Angeles Clippers have survived every form of chaos a franchise can face. Drama, heartbreak, shattered dreams, nonstop rumors. But what went down late Tuesday night wasn't just another chapter. It was a cold shock straight to the heart. What happened with Chris Paul felt harsher than anything the team had ever experienced, as if the entire organization cracked from the inside out. At 2:40 a.m. Eastern, in the middle of a long 5-game road trip and sitting inside a quiet Atlanta hotel room, Paul picked up his phone and dropped an Instagram post that hit the league like an explosive. He shared the news he had just learned seconds earlier. He was being sent home. With
this nigga T. Lue ain't talking to me. Hey, check this out. We already in Charlotte.
Name some other superstar that got done.
You gonna send me home?
Try to force their hand.
It's an early Christmas for me.
It did seem peculiar that because we knew this was probably going to be his last season, but to make the announcement.
Yeah, forcing their hand, bro. That shit's so calculated, bro. Listen, one thing we know, Chris Paul is a smart individual. Shit was calculated.
He said enough shit to get his ass kicked off that team.
Yeah. Shit was calculated, dog. So what everybody want to say is just what it is, man. It's a hell of a basketball player. Tough to be teammates with it, right?
I think,
like I said, there's nothing wrong with holding guys accountable, right?
It's thinking Clippers, bro.
Nothing wrong with it. And nothing wrong with holding your teammates accountable. Want to get the best out of guys when they going, but how you going about it though?
Don't hold me accountable.
Hours later, the Clippers confirmed everything, ripping the bandage off in public without any concern for how messy it looked. Chris Paul had been released. A reunion that was supposed to be emotional, warm, and meaningful, a true final chapter, suddenly flipped into a cold, chaotic breakup under the brightest possible lights. The league froze. Former teammates didn't know what to say, and Clippers fans, already frustrated with the brutal 5-16 start, were left stunned. Just 5 months earlier, Paul had signed a 1-year, $3.6 million deal to return to the place where he built his name, 5 All-Star selections, Lob City, and the culture shift that transformed the Clippers from an afterthought into a movement. He didn't return for fame, minutes, or a starting role. He came back for one thing: to retire as a Clipper. At his introductory press conference, he said it plainly: "I just wanted to be home, by any means necessary." On November 22nd, he made it official, telling the world this season would be his last run.
On your way out type of thing. You know, I was present when Blake Griffin was traded. You know, my personal situation. This is a person that told me I can relax. I'm not getting traded. 15 minutes later, I was an Atlanta Hawk. And now we have this scenario. So, and you guys been working for me. This is going on year 3 now. I've held my tongue and not been critical of L. Frank because that's not really my style. And I didn't want to be the scorned ex-girlfriend. I didn't want to be that person. And so I never spoke about him in this manner. But when you do this to a guy, and I'm gonna keep harping on it, that 3 was going up in the rafters. That 3 was going up. And you do this to that guy? Like, okay, cool, he's talking shit. Okay, cool, he got a lot to say. Chris Paul has always had a lot to say. You know what you're signing up for when you sign Chris Paul. He's always had a lot to say. You know that. You know.
Faster than anyone could even process, everything flipped. 1 minute, Chris Paul was a celebrated legend in front of thousands, and the next, he was packing his bags at 3 a.m. Chris Paul and the Clippers had been through ups and downs before, but nothing had ever hit this hard or this suddenly. The vibes were no longer warm. There was no support, no unity, just silence and confusion. And according to ESPN's Shams Charania, the tension wasn't new. It had been simmering for weeks. Paul's leadership, the same leadership praised for nearly 2 decades, had suddenly begun clashing with the team in ways no one expected. Reports even claim that Tyronn Lue hadn't spoken to him in weeks, which is shocking for a veteran of Paul's stature. Paul felt the energy shift around him and heard whispers that he was becoming a negative presence, so he requested a meeting to clear the air and realign the team. But Lue didn't just delay it, he refused outright. For a franchise that had marketed this season as a farewell tour for one of its greatest legends, that refusal spoke volumes. The relationship wasn't cracked, it was cooked. Everyone knows Chris Paul's personality. Intense, demanding, sharp. He's a perfectionist, a leader who pushes everyone to reach a higher level. And that has never been a secret to the Clippers, Lue, or anyone who has shared a locker room with him. When they brought him back, they knew exactly who they were getting. They just didn't expect him to hold them to the same standard he'd always lived by. Reports say Paul became more vocal as the season spiraled into one of the franchise's worst starts in years. He pushed the coaches to tighten things up, urged management to make adjustments, and challenged teammates who looked lost on every possession. What the Clippers...
I just don't understand. You couldn't have a conversation. Everybody knows who Chris Paul is. He's one of the most decorated, one of the best point guards in the history of our game. And you send him home like he's a child. It's kind of crazy to me. You knew who he was, you knew how he acted, you know what he brings to the table. So for you to like I said, treat him this way is very bad on the Clippers organization. I hope for Chris's sake it's not worse, but I hope for the Clippers organization that there's something more than just him being a distraction in the locker room where you can't have a conversation. Because this is not enough. This is not enough to send a 20-year vet, one of the best point guards in the history of our game, home. And when you guys are playing such bad basketball in the beginning of this.
At the center of it all was Wednesday's press conference, where Clippers president Lawrence Frank stood before reporters looking tense and stressed as he fielded questions about Chris Paul, Tyronn Lue, and a season unraveling at full speed. He explained that Paul and the team had a 3-hour meeting before CP3 was sent home, insisting Chris has a very good leadership style, followed by some moves work, some don't, as if he were trying to keep the entire franchise from fracturing right there at the podium. Paul himself said, "I own that," taking responsibility like a veteran who has weathered the fire before. But the way the situation unfolded told a different story. Paul wasn't just released. He was pulled off the road trip without warning, sent home alone, and forced to break the news to the world via Instagram. If that was gratitude, it came wrapped in sharp edges and cold timing. Frank continued to publicly back Tyronn Lue in every interview, calling him one of the best coaches in the league and promising he'd be leading the Clippers for a long time. And to everyone watching, it was painfully clear. The organization had chosen its side, and they weren't hiding it. This season was supposed to be CP3's farewell.
He holds the ball 24 seconds. Chris Paul. Pass that to James or somebody.
Him and LeBron, they came to a game. I was in 11th grade, and I'm excited. I'm a Chris Paul fan. And then he was just like,
You gotta rephrase that. What?
I'm just saying, it's not. You said with each other. I think only one.
There was a lack of respect for Mr.
No, I don't think Chris Paul seen it.
I feel like Chris Paul is the last true point guard we'll ever have at that size. I know when I was growing up, we were taught how to be a point guard like Chris Paul. He is definitely the definition of a true point guard, and he's done it for a long time. Everywhere he's went, he's won. Congratulations to him. We'll never see another small point guard at that size anymore, that dominant.
At the center of it all was Wednesday's press conference, where Clippers president Lawrence Frank stood before reporters looking tense and stressed as he fielded questions about Chris Paul, Tyronn Lue, and a season unraveling at full speed. He explained that Paul and the team had a 3-hour meeting before CP3 was sent home, insisting Chris has a very good leadership style, followed by some moves work, some don't, as if he were trying to keep the entire franchise from fracturing right there at the podium. Paul himself said, "I own that," taking responsibility like a veteran who has weathered the fire before. But the way the situation unfolded told a different story. Paul wasn't just released. He was pulled off the road trip without warning, sent home alone, and forced to break the news to the world via Instagram. If that was gratitude, it came wrapped in sharp edges and cold timing. Frank continued to publicly back Tyronn Lue in every interview, calling him one of the best coaches in the league and promising he'd be leading the Clippers for a long time. And to everyone watching, it was painfully clear. The organization had chosen